Julia at the Parent Pivot podcast. We are a podcast about parenting adult children or not parenting adult children, as the case may be, which is our goal. Steve's usually the introduction person, but Steve is the one with all the ideas today. So I'm heading it over to him to tell us what we're talking about today.
Thank you. You did a good job.
Thank
you. I think it flows better when people are like going, "Hey, we want to hear from her. We don't need to hear from him." But anyway, so I wanted to bring something to light. You know, we get a lot of response. In fact, I just had a phone call today before we started the podcast. We get a lot of phone calls and emails and conversations with clients and whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm always looking for what's the one or two things that this is really all about. I'm a simplified person, you know, and I've really in the last 8 years, but the last 8 years really done some deeper work in my spiritual life. Just reading a lot of books by John Eldredge, Michael Thompson, all the things that have to do with spiritual formation, things like that, going through Jamie and Donna Winship's identity exchange program. I got my certificate the other day. I'm now a fully fledged identity exchange catalyst. And you're probably thinking, what does that mean? That means that I've gone through an intensive and I've also gone through a 3-day event and 8 weeks of learning labs and coaching to get me to a place where I can help others in kind of like listening prayer and inner healing. And so this morning I got up, and if y'all don't live in Georgia, well, we're in the summertime. I was talking to somebody in California today. Okay, yeah, it's 89 degrees and no, Oregon. It's 89 degrees and no humidity. I said, you know what? It's 89 degrees and pretty
150% humidity. Yeah.
But anyway, I got up early this morning to mow the yard. Now, we've shown you the backyard if you've been on YouTube quite a bit. I've got like 2 acres out there to mow, and I wanted to get it done before it got hot. And while I was out there, I was just kind of thinking about, okay, Father, what is it you want me to know? That's the biggest shift that I think I've learned in the last 2 months going through the identity exchange piece. Is we always want to say, what do you want me to do? What am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to respond to this adult child? They're doing this problem. That's why maybe sometimes why you tune in the Parent Pivot podcast.
Right.
Hey,
what do I need to do?
Steve and Julia, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And we give you counsel based on our own experiences. Yeah. But we also say, you know, you've got to look at yourself.
Yes.
And so we put it back on you because we're not parents anymore. We're pivoting to partners.
Yes.
So anyway, I'm out mowing the yard, and I'm thinking, Father, what do you want me to know? I'm going through a couple of different things. Some of it work related, some of it more just general related. But what's the common theme here? And as I was thinking about that, 3 things popped into my mind and heart to talk about today. And that is having a short memory, giving grace, and believing the best about the other person. You know, we do that in marriage. We try. Yeah. But we're human beings, and we get our feelings hurt, or we have expectations and they're not met, or we have little t traumas and sometimes big T traumas of the family of origin that we grew up in. And I just remember when I said I do at the altar 37 years ago, I had no idea what I was getting into. I just knew that I wanted to spend the rest of my life with this beautiful woman over here.
Yes, we're all ignorant. When we go to the altar, we honestly don't know what we're saying yes to.
I watched
way to know.
I watched way too many Disneyland movies because they all end in a happy ending.
Yes.
You know, there's a little bit of conflict. Even in Hollywood, you go to the movies, it's like, okay, there's all these problems, right? But in the end, it all works out. And your stress level goes down, and you have a warm, fuzzy feeling in your heart. And our culture kind of slowly indoctrinates us to these tendencies.
Well, it's a tendency to have that expectation.
Right.
It's a tendency to believe that that's what we deserve.
Right.
So if you remember the other day, I said, the Lord gave me two words: expectations and entitlement. And that's exactly what you're talking about, is um, our, our, we're just prone to that. We're
Right.
just like, we have this
We don't.
expectation of ourselves,
Right.
often of others, to be a certain way, to behave a certain way. And then we feel entitled to have that person be the way we want them to be, or we feel entitled to feel the way that we feel, or we feel entitled to, confront someone because they're doing it wrong or whatever.
Right. And nobody teaches us to do things. It really comes quite naturally. Try that out with your either if you still have young children in the home or a grandchild. Take something away from them or tell them no, and they pitch a fit. Why? Because they're entitled and they want that and they expect to have that anytime they want it. And then don't even get me started on the internet. Although one thing I will say to this is, go read John Eldridge's book, Experience Jesus Really, because he talks about we are disciples of the internet. And even though we're in our 50s, 60s, 70s, or 40s, whatever age you are with adult children, we're still disciples of the internet. When we had our kids, we did not have the internet. So this little thing right here, this thing called the iPhone, it just gets us. So where am I going with all this? It's like we always keep positioning all of the content that we want to say is like, hey, you have to look inward.
Yes.
We cannot control what happens outside of us.
Right. We can't control how somebody else responds, or how they react, or how they interpret things, or what their experience is at all. Yeah.
So the first thing I want to cover is just having a short memory. What do I mean by that? We tend to, as human beings, raise your hand if you've done this. You're driving in the car, or you're listening at home. Raise your hand if you've done this. We want to go back and be the prosecutor, sentencing, and conviction person all in one fell swoop. I think of Nate Bargatze every time I say one fell swoop. And we want to back up how we feel and how this is logically right. And we could very well be right.
Yeah.
But as we've said on the Parent Pivot podcast to you parent pivoters, guess what? You can only do one of those two things. You're either going to be in a relationship or you can be right. You can't do both. So if I need to give up being right, oops, I just bumped the mic. Sorry for you that are listening audioly. We got to have short memories. And that means with our adult kids, they may pull up something from the past. Dad, you always. Mom, you always. Dad, you never. Mom, you never. And they probably got likely from their viewpoint, again, get on the other side and look through life through their lens. Now, let them get it out, because that's the best thing you can do, and own it. And then that's it with the memory. Listen. Let it go. Keep a short memory.
Listen.
And so for you parent pivoters out there, moving over to partner, that means not bringing up stuff from the past about them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That means, when you were little, you always did this and you always did that. That's why maybe a couple months ago, we did a podcast on just laughing and making jokes about family stuff. And I'm always reading the room. I'm always looking around going, hey, this is funny, but am I taking a dig at my son or daughter or in-law son or in-law daughter or whatever? Because if I am, I'm digging out of those memories to make a point. So you kind of have to, is it appropriate? But what I want to say here is keep your short-term memories to a short list. Have a short-term memory to things that happen. What do you want to add to that?
My short-term memories.
Your short-term memories in overdrive?
I don't know. Something went in one thought and out the other. But no, I was thinking that part of what we want to do is always be asking yourself, is what I'm saying bringing life to this person, or is it speaking yuck over them? I can't use the word death, but but it might be.
Don't speak yuck.
Yeah. It might be death in the way of how an adult child views themselves, or how they have felt their whole life about a certain situation or whatever. So always be, when we are joking, to be asking yourself, is this bringing my adult child life?
Right.
Is this speaking good things over them?
Yeah. So short memories, like, it's like the Father sees us and rewards us. We get our approval from Him. That's all that we really need. I can't get my approval from my kids. I can't get it from my wife. I can't get it from my friends. I can't get it from my parents. I can only get it from Him.
Mm-hmm.
So everybody else, if you go with the expectation that everybody's human and we're going to step on each other's toes, what I want to do is immediately basically forgive and move on. I've got to live in the present. I've got to forgive every small little act, from barely stepping on my toes to getting beat with a hammer.
Yes.
That's hard to do, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. So keep a short memory. Number 2, be a grace giver.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, grace is not get. I get confused about this between grace and grace is getting something that you don't deserve.
That you don't deserve.
Grace is getting something that you don't deserve. We've all been on the receiving end of grace, and wow, that feels wonderful. I should have gotten a ticket, but He didn't give me one. Wow, do I feel good? Or I should have been let go and fired, but they gave me grace. Or everything in between. Now, being a grace giver is a little more challenging.
Always.
Because now it directly affects you and your personal feelings, especially if someone is incredibly abrasive. Raise your hand if you have any abrasive people in your life. That could be in your home, in your workplace, in your neighborhood, wherever. There's always somebody that's just going to rub you the wrong way. And I tend to get worked up. As I was mowing the yard today, I start thinking about something where I I start thinking about some situation with a certain person, and I get worked up all over again.
Yes.
And I'm not giving grace. I'm not looking at that person how God sees them. And if I am going to be an apprentice and disciple of Jesus and a good Christian parent pivoter, I've got to see people how Jesus sees them, whether they hurt me or not. And extending grace is hard to do, but I want to challenge you. Keep a short-term memory. Be a grace giver. Anything to add on grace?
No, you've covered it.
Okay, third one, and that is believe the best about, I would say this about other people, but believe the best about your adult kids. We did not have life figured out back when we said I do.
Right. We've worked hard at this in our marriage,
right,
to believe the best about each other, which isn't always easy. Whenever you've been with someone, so whether it's a marriage or a child, and you have a history at all, it is easy to always go back in history and to allow that to define how you're looking at someone else. And so we have worked hard at doing that. I think you're great at it, because you always say to me, like, I know you didn't wake up in the morning thinking that's Steve's big statement all the time.
Wake up in the morning trying to figure out, how can I hurt Steve today?
Right.
I know that about Julia's heart.
Right. And I know that about yours as
right.
well.
Right.
So that's something that we try to do. So in putting that toward being a parent of our adult children.
Right. And I just want to say, remember, we don't have all the information in front of us about somebody or some incident or something that went on. We may remember our adult child was always a certain way. Now they've gotten married, and their closest person, and you want to celebrate this, is now their mate. Okay? In that marriage, just as Julie and I have just discussed how we have worked at that, your adult kids are working at that, whether you know it or not. All we have is this limited perspective of what life was like when we lived with them and interacted with them. So when I believe the best, I might hear a snippet about something, go, aha, there they go again. This is what you need to do, and you're not doing it. Pound on the table, and it's like, wait a minute, am I missing some information here? Probably. I would be willing to go to Las Vegas and bet our property that we're missing some information on, drawing some conclusions there.
I have an example of our youngest son was Jackson makes me laugh just thinking about how he used to be and how he is now. Jackson was my child who I'd go send him into his bedroom to get ready. And, I'm getting ready. And then all of a sudden I realize, where's Jackson? And I walk into his room and he's sitting there naked playing on the floor. Jackson and Campbell were my two that were hardest to get up out of bed. Campbell was very affable about it all. Jackson was so awful in the morning when he woke up. And, he just didn't want to get up. And he was also so a couple of my kids were procrastinators, but Jackson could procrastinate until the very last minute. And it always went well for him. It really ticked me off as a parent because he was getting rewarded for not working hard. And so he learned, I really don't have to work that hard. I saw him do it all the way through college, that he would be doing a paper at the last minute and he'd get an A. It was so frustrating.
Oh, he'd be up in the middle of the night and be due at 6 o'clock in the morning or 8 o'clock in the morning. He's turning it in at 7:59 a.m.
Yeah. So that was Jackson. But now we've got this adult child who's completely opposite. He gets up early in the morning. He's very productive. He is starting his own business and working his tail off to make that happen every day. He's just completely different. So if we had maintained the verbiage of who Jackson was as a child,
right,
and kept pushing that narrative on him, what would that have done to our relationship? Or what would it have done to his behavior?
Well, and I'll tell you this, I did that for 18 years, and we have a podcast called I'm Going to the Sidelines as Dad, where we interviewed Jackson, and he had me tell a story, and I'm not going to give it away. And Jack said, that's the greatest thing you could have ever done for me, Dad. Yeah. Because that's exactly what I was doing. So if you're a dad out there and you're pounding on your kid to go to college and get a job and get married and all these things, you're doing more damage than you are good.
Yeah.
You need to back up and have a short memory. Believe the best about him. And because when that starts to happen, when he realizes mom and dad are believing in me, oh my gosh, things start to change pretty quickly.
Yeah. And we've seen that.
We've personally seen that and think so. Learn from my mistake. I mean, again, the thump that you keep hearing is Steve. And that this time I threw myself under the bus. But this is why we come to you every week with some new content from our lives. And so as I was mowing, I'm thinking about that. And really the base foundation for these three things we're talking about, having a short memory, being a grace giver, and believing the best about your adult kids. You know at the bottom what this is built around? It's built around being unoffendable and being a good person who can forgive. So I read the book Unoffendable.
I have not.
Written by Brant, Unoffendable. How just one change can make all of life better. And you know what the one change is? I just want to read 2 pages from it to really highlight this. He goes, that's what this book is ultimately about, living a life of radical forgiveness. Now, I don't know about you, but when I think about forgiveness, I'm thinking, okay, someone took my parking spot. I can forgive them.
Sure, that's easy. Yeah.
Or somebody forgot to bring something. Okay, I can forgive them. I'm talking about things that really stick in your craw and you can't let go of.
Things that matter.
Things that matter. And as it relates to our adult kids and to anybody. So he says this, it's the way of following Jesus. It means constantly humbling ourselves and paying a price. And he puts in parentheses, it's hard to forgive. No one said this was easy. When people don't deserve it. I just went through this. Here's the verse from Luke 9:23. Then he said to them all, whoever wants to be my disciple must what? Deny themselves and take up their cross daily and follow me. That's where I lose focus. I lose focus and going, wait a minute. I want justice here. This person hurt me. Sorry, I'm tapping on the table. And things like that. In fact, just recently, I was doing some work in our bedroom closets and I'm painting and I'm thinking about a certain person. And I'm getting all riled up. And I heard my spirit say, Jesus died for that sin too. And I went, I need a reminder. I need something that says, forgive, Christ died for that sin. And I said it over and over and over. Forgive, Christ died for that sin. Christ died for that sin. Christ died for that sin. Because I want justice. And you know what? If we start begging for justice and thinking that we have to get things the way we are because we want to be right, you might want to take a few steps to the right and dodge that bolt of lightning that could come down. Let me go on. Self-denial, paying the price of forgiveness, that's a tough sell, and yes, it's hard to do. But you know what's harder than living a life of forgiveness? Living a life of unforgiveness. As I cheerfully note in chapter 14 of the book, unforgiveness will kill you. Let me relay that again, because all these things have to deal with forgiveness. Unforgiveness will kill us. It'll eat away at us. Jesus really is a genius. The way of life he's giving us isn't just refreshing and freeing. It's just plain healthy. Research shows us consistently that chronic anger can lead to high blood pressure, headaches, serious digestive problems, heart issues, and even skin disorders. And he says, I'd seriously love to see research on the psychological effects of chronic gratitude. I bet that's pretty awesome.
My mother would be an example of that.
Yeah, exactly. She's got a short memory.
Very short memory. Yeah.
And she believes the best about people. And we've gone through our difficult years and stuff, and she still thinks we're the bee's knees. She exudes that really well. He goes on to say, but forgiveness doesn't have the short-term savory flavor of anger because we think our anger is righteous and there's a certain deliciousness to it. So when we read articles about what to do about anger, we'll generally read only that we're supposed to manage it. Think about anger management. You got to go to anger management classes. Just learn how to manage it. We do that by breathing slowly or counting to 10 or keeping a journal about the anger. We're supposed to stretch more, maybe light some candles. We should repeat a mantra, which is what I just went through a second ago. But that wasn't about my anger. That was reminding me I need to forgive. I need to forgive. We should listen to soft music or maybe crush 18 glass items and 2 electronics with baseball bats. Maybe we should try it all at once. Light the candles, put on some chill jazz, and start smashing the heck out of an old DVD player. Another expert might say simply, need to pinpoint the cause of our anger. I'd argue most of us are already very good at pinpointing. Pinning the blame here, pointing the finger there. We're all the Michael Jordan of pinpointing. We're told to try just about anything except forgiveness, the one thing that actually gets us out of this mess. This has been my word for the year. It's driving me nuts, and I'm holding up the book Unoffendable to y'all.
Because God keeps giving you things to practice it.
Yes. Can you undo a prayer? It's like, okay, Jesus, please stop. I get it. But you know what? I look at it this way. It's like that gold in the furnace. You don't, it hurts. It's painful. But when you pull that gold out, it's got no more impurities left in it. It's painful. I'm telling you, I'm not trying to say, oh, look at how wonderful I'm at. It's like, I want out. How do I get out of the furnace? Really. But I also feel that because I have such a giving heart and want to help others, what I hear Jesus telling me is, okay, that means you have to experience what others go through and to be able to help them. I can't help others. And this is what I learned in the Identity Exchange with Jamie and Donna Winship. I'm going to put a link to that too. If you're interested in getting inner healing or interested in that material, I'll put a link to that too. But you cannot give away what you do not possess. So here I am, 63 years old. And really, I feel like my spiritual sanctification journey just went up about 8 or 9 notches. And it's like, it kind of goes up, probably comes down a few times or whatever when I, get tired of going, okay, this has to stop. In fact, what I did the other day so I could feel better and you were with me, I went and got a pliable. If you got a pliable place in your city, you need to look it up. Pliables. I get the acai Pura Vida bowl. Oh my goodness. That just brings a smile to my face and I feel a whole lot better.
He's addicted to that, people. He's addicted.
My boss at work, she does my expense reports. She goes, yeah, I know. She saw that I like pliables so much when I travel. I'll eat there one or twice a day, that she did a game for us at our staff retreat, and the winning team got pliable gift cards. We won.
Anyway,
Anyway,
I lost my train of thought again.
this is what happens when Steve has to go on with stuff. We were talking about forgiveness.
Yeah, we were.
We were.
A
A lot.
Yeah.
Forgiving others is hard to do.
Yeah, I know. I lost it, you guys. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You needed to let me interrupt.
My bad. Anyway.
Yeah, I think I really need to read that book. I've said that before, and I need to read it. I don't know why I don't pick it up and do it.
As Steve hands it to her right now.
We'll see if I actually do it. I don't know. Sometimes picking up books like this feels like work to me, and like I have to do something, and it's exhausting. Oh, I know what I was going to say. I just remembered. In my counseling practice, I'll talk to a lot of moms, and I do find you. This is in regard to you talking about you can't give what you've never been given type of thing, and I see that with moms a lot. Moms who weren't shown how to be a mom, or at least be the kind of mom they want to be, really struggle with that a lot. There is this part of them that is just, their cup wasn't filled in that area. So that's true of different things like what you're talking about, is that if we have not experienced this and felt it and lived it, then oftentimes it's really hard for us to pour out to others. So if you were raised in a home where unforgiveness is the norm, where cutting off relationships is the norm, and you've convinced yourself, like, I have to do that to protect myself, and I got to cut relationships off, and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that, because sometimes that probably is necessary, particularly in abusive situations. But if unforgiveness is part of your family of origin narrative and way of being, again, it's the whole thing again. You've got to look at yourself. You've got to pick apart some of the things about yourself and say, I don't want to be that kind of person.
Yeah, and let me underscore this by going, this is not to make you feel shame or guilt or I'm a horrible mother or father. We all do the best of our ability of what we know at the time.
Yes.
I've become a better dad and grandfather because I didn't have the capacity that I have now. I didn't go through all this. And then we sit there and go, oh my gosh, I feel so much guilt. I should have learned this 30 years. No. You're living perfectly the life that God intended you to live. If you look at Psalm 139, He has been to every day of our life before we were ever born. So He has a plan through all of this. He's weaving it all along. When we get to certain ages, we suddenly experience more, we know more, we go to identity exchange things, marriage retreats, whatever, and all of a sudden we now have capacity that we can turn and pass on to our adult kids that we never had before.
Right.
Because we've got this wealth of it. This is why we have podcasts, because we have a wealth of Steve's failures to be able to talk about and things. And so don't beat yourself up, because you have a Father who every day, Jesus is with you every day. God is with you every day. The Holy Spirit's ready to tell you how wonderful you are. We just don't know how to tune in and to hear that voice. If you do, bathe in that stuff. Bask it. My word last year, was it last year? Last year was bask. No, enjoy. The year before was bask. Bask, enjoy, unoffendable. I'm starting a downhill trend. But yeah, don't beat yourself up over that, because we're all imperfect human beings. Yeah. We only can learn with what's in front of us. So have a gracious heart. If you really want to run the test, ask your adult kids, not just, through a text or email. If you ever have an intimate moment with them and you can sit and listen well, then ask the question, are you ready for it? What's it like to be on the other side of me? Be honest. You're not going to hurt my feelings. I want to learn. Now you're going to get more information. You're not agreeing with it, but you're hearing about how you come across to them. And you might hear some pain and hurt, and you can own that, saying, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that happened. I love you, and hug it out at the end. And they feel heard. They feel heard. They feel validated. It's all about relationship. It's not about demanding my perspective was right and you were wrong. That's usually how we learn in our families of origin. Somebody's right, somebody's wrong. I'm dad. Just shut up and follow me.
which is often the case. And even if it's not said that way, oftentimes that is the
Right.
overall feeling in the household of dad's in charge and he's going to be whatever.
Yeah.
I just want to say to the audience out there who may, our last couple of podcasts have been very geared toward scripture and toward biblical truths and our relationships with Christ and things like that. And I understand that everyone out there may not believe that way, but I'm going to say this about that. We can't apologize for how we believe, but I will say that those things that these truths are applicable even if you don't believe it. So
because we're all human. We're all human. We all experience this. So
I really want to drive that point home, and it's important to know that these are truths, that they are ways for you to be with your adult children that can mend fences and relationships and bring you together. So
anything else?
That's Enneagram 9 in me.
There you go. Anything else?
No.
So you open the podcast, and we've done a whole bunch of these. We're like into our third year of doing this.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if you can close the podcast, and I'm going to give the magic word at the end. You always do.
Okay.
So go ahead and give all that information like I usually do. Come on,
you can find us on Instagram and Facebook, although there's not much there. It's not like we post a lot or anything. And email.
And
I don't know.
I'm pointing to a clock.
I don't know what you mean.
TikTok.
Oh, and we have TikTok. Oh, yeah. Our daughter made TikTok. I forgot about that.
And how do they find us? What's it called?
At Parent Pivot Podcast.
Yeah, on any of those social platforms.
Any of those social platforms. Just Parent Pivot Podcast. You can also email us.
Yes,
at Parent Pivot Podcast at gmail.com. And please rate us, give us a thumbs up. Please share us with your friends. I know that if you are in the stage of life where you want to listen to this, that you have friends in this stage of life as well.
We know you have friends.
So please share this and just spread the word that someone's talking about this. It is always our goal, like Steve said today, to be authentic, and he's been very authentic today. So we want to be authentic about what we're going through. We are going through it with you at the same stages as you. We are a little bit, we are grandparents now, so if you're at the stage of they're just now leaving, it is a little different. But we've been there.
Yes.
And I think that's it. Oh, and a couple of things that he talked about, we'll put in the show notes.
You're doing great.
And, one more thing. We were interviewed on Jim
Bird's podcast.
Homeward. It's probably won't be for about 3 more weeks, but he...
I had a good interview with him. He was the inspiration through you to even start this podcast.
And
what about this?
Okay, you can say that.
No, you're closing.
Oh, my goodness.
Because that's why he interviewed us.
That's true. We have a book that you can get on Amazon, The Parent Pivot, 13 Principles for Building Stronger Relationships with Your Adult Children. It has some thoughts, some journaling, some verses, some questions. It is more of a journal, I would say.
I was impressed that an author read our book on the airplane.
Yes, and he's a very accomplished author.
Yeah, he's got a doctor in front of his name. I always tease Julie about having a doctor in front of her name because she could get one, but she just doesn't want to do all the schooling.
I don't want to do 6 years of school.
I know. But anyway, that was like going, whoa, we're like all of a sudden gotten this. When did this happen, Father? We're just walking through each opportunity that comes by. Yeah.
So anyway, we'll mention that again in a couple weeks because that should be up in about 3 weeks from what we understand. So, book, podcast, social medias, share with your friends. Please rate us. Please give us a thumbs up. Yada, yada, yada.
Okay.
And
Say the magic words.
that's it.
What do you say?
See you next time.
On.
I never pay attention to what you say, I don't think. We will see you next time on the Parent Pivot Podcast.
Wait for it. Bye.